Commander Park jolted awake to something heavy pressing on his chest. His eyes blinked open to find 6 shiny ball-like eyes staring down at him. These eyes sat in a perfect 6-sided pattern on what looked like a giant insect hovering inches from his face. Park's breath caught in his throat. The creature above him had a hard outer shell and multiple thin limbs. It wasn't crushing him, but definitely resting some of its weight on his chest. "Good morning, honored Resident Park. I am Neri, your assigned domestic maintenance specialist," the creature said in a clear, pleasant voice that sounded almost human despite coming from its clicking mouthparts. "The Galactic Federation has assigned me to your dwelling as part of the Cultural Integration Initiative." Park scrambled backward until his back hit the headboard of his bed, his heart racing wildly. The alien, Neri, sensed his fear and backed away, floating slightly before settling at the foot of his bed. Her many limbs tucked in neatly against her body in what seemed like an attempt to appear less threatening. "There must be some mistake," Park managed to say through his shock. "I never requested whatever you are." His mind raced through possibilities. Was this a dream? A prank? Some kind of security breach in his apartment on the Jupiter orbital habitat, where he'd retired after his service in Earth's Space Force? "There is no error," Neri responded calmly. "All new Federation citizens receive assistance during their transition period. Your acceptance of Federation citizenship included consent to this program." She tilted her head slightly, a surprisingly human gesture from such an alien form. "Was this information not provided in your orientation materials?" Park took several deep breaths, trying to calm himself. Earth had only joined the Galactic Federation 8 months ago. Everything was still new and confusing for most humans, himself included. "No, it absolutely was not," he said firmly. "I think I would remember agreeing to have an alien, Maid, living in my home." Neri's antennae twitched. "The term maid is imprecise but acceptable. My function includes maintaining your living space, preparing nutrition, and assisting with cultural adaptation. I was selected specifically for you based on compatibility algorithms." Park looked around his bedroom. Nothing else seemed out of place. "How did you get in here?" "The habitat security is supposed to be top-notch. I was granted access codes by Federation administration yesterday. I arrived while you were in sleep cycle and began preliminary assessment of the dwelling." Neri gestured with one slender limb toward his kitchen. "I have already organized your food storage unit for maximum efficiency." Park closed his eyes for a moment. "You watched me sleep before deciding to wake me up by sitting on me." "I did not sit. I hovered using my gravitational stabilizers," Neri corrected. "And observation during sleep cycles provides valuable biological data. Your species' need for extended unconsciousness is quite fascinating." Park swung his legs over the side of the bed, keeping a wary eye on the alien. "Look, Neri, I appreciate the thought, but I don't need a domestic assistant. I've lived alone for years. I prefer it that way." Neri's body shifted, her outer shell catching the morning light. Refusal of cultural integration services requires formal application with the Federation Bureau of Interspecies Relations. Until such approval is granted, I am required to fulfill my assignment. Park sighed heavily. "And how long does that approval process take?" "Typically between 3 to 6 Earth months, depending on case complexity," Neri replied promptly. "Wonderful," Park muttered. Neri rose slightly, hovering at eye level. "Perhaps we should discuss your dwelling maintenance preferences over morning nutrition. I have analyzed your food stores and can prepare several acceptable meals." Park ran a hand through his hair. "Fine. Let me get dressed first." "Of course. Human modesty customs. I will await you in the food preparation area." Neri floated smoothly toward the door, her movements eerily silent despite her size. As she left, Park noticed how her body seemed to shift and adapt to fit through the doorway without touching the frame. Advanced technology or natural ability? He wasn't sure. In the bathroom, Park splashed cold water on his face and looked at himself in the mirror. At 45, His military short hair was showing more gray than black these days, and the lines around his eyes had deepened since his retirement. "You've survived space battles and meteor storms," he told himself. "You can handle one alien housekeeper." When Park entered his kitchen, he stopped short. Every cabinet door stood open, with his food items arranged in precise, color-coded groups on every surface. Neri stood in the center, her limbs working independently as she simultaneously operated the coffee machine, sliced fruit, and heated something in a pan that smelled surprisingly good. "I have prepared a meal compatible with human nutritional needs," she announced. "The beverage contains the caffeine your species frequently consumes upon waking." Park sat at his counter, watching this bizarre scene unfold in his formerly quiet apartment. "Neri, we need to establish some ground rules if you're going to be here for a while." Neri paused her activities, focusing all 6 eyes on him. "I am programmed to adapt to host preferences. First rule, no watching me sleep. Second, no touching me without permission. Third, please ask before reorganizing my things." Neri's antennae twitched again, which Park was beginning to interpret as acknowledgement. "These parameters are acceptable. I will update my protocols." She placed a perfectly prepared breakfast before him. Despite his irritation, Park had to admit it looked delicious. "So," he said, taking a cautious bite, "tell me more about this cultural integration initiative. What exactly is the Federation hoping to learn from watching humans in their homes?" Neri's eyes seemed to brighten slightly. "The exchange of cultural knowledge benefits all parties. Humans are particularly interesting to the Federation due to your species' remarkable adaptability." Park nodded slowly, thinking. There was clearly more to this arrangement than a simple cultural exchange program. As he ate his breakfast, watching his new alien housekeeper efficiently clean his kitchen, Park wondered just what he had gotten himself into by accepting Federation citizenship. 3 days had passed since Neri's unexpected arrival, and Park was slowly adjusting to sharing his living space with an alien. He sat at his kitchen counter, nursing his morning coffee while watching Neri work. The sight was still strange. Her 4 primary arms moved independently as she cleaned, organized, and rearranged his apartment with remarkable efficiency. "So your species, the Keltheri, has been part of the Federation for how long?" Park asked, taking a sip of his coffee. He'd been trying to learn more about his unexpected houseguest. "Approximately 1,203 of your Earth years," Neri replied without pausing her work. Her limbs continued their tasks as she spoke. "We have served admirably in technological development sectors." "That's a long time," Park mused. "Earth has barely been part of the Federation for 8 months." "The integration period is always challenging," Neri said, her voice modulated to sound reassuring. "The Keltheri experienced similar difficulties during our early Federation membership." Park watched as one of Neri's arms stretched to an impossible length to reach the top shelf of his bookcase without her moving from her position near the couch. "Can all Keltheri do that?" "The stretching thing. Our exoskeletons contain microfibers that allow controlled extension of limbs when necessary. It is a common adaptation among spacefaring species." Neri turned 2 of her 6 eyes toward him, while continuing to dust with her extended arm. "Your species' rigid skeletal structure is actually quite unusual." Park had slowly gotten used to how Neri could focus different eyes on different tasks. It was unsettling at first, but now he found it almost fascinating. "You never really explained why the Federation assigns domestic maintenance specialists to new member species," Park said, trying to sound casual. "It seems like a lot of resources to devote to what's essentially a housekeeping service." Neri's movements paused briefly before resuming. "Cultural exchange is vital for successful integration. The Federation values understanding of all member species." "Aha," Park said, unconvinced. He'd been a military strategist long enough to recognize when someone was avoiding giving a direct answer. Later that day, while Neri was occupied with some mysterious maintenance task in the apartment's environmental systems, Park retreated to his small office. He activated his computer terminal and connected to the interplanetary network. After ensuring his connection was secure, he logged onto Galactic Credit, the Federation-wide social media platform that had quickly become popular with humans. Park created a new anonymous account and typed out a post. Found an alien maid watching me sleep 3 days ago. Keltheri female assigned by Federation as domestic maintenance specialist. Anyone else experiencing this? Seems keen on learning about human habits and technology. Former military, so wondering about true purpose. He hesitated before hitting submit, wondering if he was overreacting. But his years in Earth's Space Force had taught him to trust his instincts, and something about this situation felt off. He posted the message. Within hours, his post had received dozens of responses from humans across the solar system. User_Jiwoo wrote, "My maintenance specialist keeps cataloging everything in my workshop. Seems way more interested in my old military equipment than my dirty dishes." Another user named SpaceDoc_Ta commented, "Mine asks endless questions about human medicine and how we treat injuries. Yesterday, she wanted to know all about how we handle radiation exposure." The third response caught Park's particular attention. "Former Earth Fleet engineer here. My Keltheri helper spent 3 hours yesterday watching me fix my old shuttle engine. Asked how humans developed workarounds for parts shortages. When I explained improvisation, she seemed confused by the concept. Said her species always follows standard protocols." Park leaned back in his chair, mind racing. This was starting to look less like a cultural exchange program and more like a coordinated information-gathering operation. But to what end? "Have you found the communications interface useful?" Nari's voice came from directly behind him. Park jumped, quickly closing the Galactic Credit page. He hadn't heard her approach. She moved with that eerie silence despite her size. "Just checking some news," he said casually. "How's the environmental system?" "Operating at 94% efficiency. I have improved circulation by 3.2% by adjusting airflow patterns." Nari moved to stand beside him, her height exactly matching his when sitting. "You appear tense. Is something causing discomfort?" Park forced a smile. "Just not used to having company, that's all." Later that night, after Nari had entered her rest cycle, she didn't sleep, exactly, but entered a state of reduced activity for several hours each night. Park returned to Galactic Credit. His post had exploded with hundreds more comments from humans sharing similar experiences. He began sorting through them, looking for patterns. The Keltheri seemed particularly interested in human problem-solving, adaptation techniques, and military technology. It didn't feel malicious, but it definitely wasn't just about helping with household chores. As Park was reading, a private message appeared from someone using the name Old Space Wolf. "Former Federation liaison officer here. The domestic assistance program is real, but it's not the whole story. The Federation Council is very interested in human adaptability. Most Federation species develop along predictable technological paths. Humans don't. Meet me on Secure Channel 7 Delta tomorrow at 900 if you want to know more." Park stared at the message, his old military instincts fully awake now. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than an alien housekeeper with too many eyes and arms. The question was whether it represented a threat or an opportunity for humanity. He glanced toward the closed door of the small room where Nari spent her rest cycles. What was she really doing here? And what had Earth unknowingly agreed to in joining the Federation? Park shut down his terminal and headed to bed, making sure to lock his bedroom door. Tomorrow, he would see what this old space wolf had to say. Until then, he'd keep watching Nari just as carefully as she was watching him. Park returned from his morning exercise to find Nari hovering near his bookshelf. Her compound eyes emitted a faint blue light that swept across his collection of old military service manuals. The light created a ghostly glow in the dim corner of his living room. "Nari, why are you scanning my old service manuals?" Park asked, stepping into the room. The alien froze momentarily, all 6 eyes dimming instantly. For the first time since her arrival, Park saw what appeared to be surprise in her posture. Simple cataloging for efficient organization, she replied after a brief pause. Park moved closer, noticing how her limbs tightened against her body, a defensive posture he'd come to recognize over the past week. "Those manuals are from my military service," Park said casually. "They're pretty boring unless you're interested in tactical response protocols and emergency repair procedures." Nari's antennae twitched slightly. "All items in the dwelling must be cataloged for optimal organization." "You've been here almost a week," Park pointed out. "Seems odd you'd only now get around to this shelf." Nari turned fully to face him. "I process dwelling areas in order of priority. This section was scheduled for today's tasks." Park nodded, pretending to accept her explanation. "Well, don't let me interrupt. I'll grab some lunch." In the kitchen, Park prepared a sandwich while discreetly watching Nari. Once she thought he wasn't paying attention, the blue scanning light from her eyes returned, more focused this time. She was methodically scanning each page of his manual on emergency spacecraft repairs. That evening, after ensuring Nari had entered her rest cycle, Park activated the secure communication device he'd kept from his military days. The small disk, no larger than his palm, created an encrypted channel that even Federation technology would have difficulty detecting. "Connection secure," the device whispered once he'd entered the proper codes. "Kim, it's Park. Sorry for the late call." Captain Kim's face appeared in the small holographic display. She looked tired, her normally neat hair disheveled, as though she'd been working long hours. "About time you called," she said. "I was beginning to think you were enjoying retirement too much to check in." "Been busy with an unexpected house guest," Park replied. "That's actually why I'm calling. I've got a Kelthari domestic specialist who showed up unannounced in my bedroom 5 days ago." Kim's expression hardened. "Let me guess, assigned by the Federation as part of their cultural integration initiative." "Exactly. She's been suspiciously interested in my old service manuals and keeps asking questions about how humans handle equipment failures." Kim nodded grimly. "It's happening everywhere. Federation observers in human homes across the system. We've confirmed over 2,000 placements in the last month alone." "So it's not just me," Park said, feeling the mix of relief and concern. "What's going on? Are they spying on us?" "Yes and no," Kim replied. "After your galactic credit post went viral, yes, we monitor those channels. I brought it to the attention of Fleet Intelligence. They're especially interested in our combat innovations and jury-rigging skills." "Are we in danger?" Park asked directly. "Not exactly," Kim replied, running a hand through her hair. "Intelligence suggests they're evaluating us for something. Humans solve problems differently than most Federation species. They find our adaptability unusual." Park thought about how confused Nari had seemed when he explained his impromptu repair of the habitat's water recycler using parts from an old coffee maker. "Unusual how?" he pressed. "Federation species tend to develop along predictable technological paths," Kim explained. "They advance methodically, building each new technology on firmly established principles. Humans," she smiled slightly, "we jump around. We cobble things together. We make intuitive leaps that don't follow their logical progression." Park remembered Nari's reaction when he'd told her about duct tape. She'd been genuinely baffled by the concept of a temporary fix. "So why the secrecy? Why not just ask us about our problem-solving approaches?" Kim's face grew serious again. "That's where it gets interesting. Fleet Intelligence intercepted some internal Federation communications. There's something coming, something that has the Council worried." A cold feeling settled in Park's stomach. "What kind of something?" "We don't know exactly. But it's got even the oldest Federation species concerned. The prevailing theory is they're studying us because they think our chaotic approach to problem-solving might help with whatever this threat is." Park thought for a moment. "My Kelthari. Nari, she mentioned her species has been part of the Federation for over 1,000 years, primarily in technological development." "The Kelthari are master engineers," Kim confirmed. but they follow established patterns. Every solution builds logically on existing technology. From what we've gathered, they're brilliant but inflexible. And humans are flexible, Park said, understanding dawning. Exactly. We jury-rig. We improvise. We think outside the box in ways that seem to both impress and confuse Federation species. Park remembered how carefully Neri had scanned his manual on emergency repairs, particularly the sections about substituting parts and creating workarounds when standard components weren't available. So what do we do? Park asked. For now, we observe our observers, Kim said. Fleet intelligence wants us to cooperate with these domestic specialists, but pay attention to what they're most interested in learning. We need to understand what kind of threat has the Federation concerned enough to plant observers in human homes. Should I confront Neri? Park asked. Kim shook her head firmly. Not yet. Let her think you're unaware of the larger purpose. But maybe start demonstrating more of that human ingenuity. Show her how we solve problems. Let's see how she reacts. After ending the call, Park sat in the darkness of his small office, thinking. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than just cultural exchange. The Federation needed something from humanity, something only they could provide. He glanced toward the room where Neri rested, wondering what she really thought of humans. Was she just following orders, or did she have her own opinions about this strange species that had recently joined the galactic community? Tomorrow, Park decided, he would start showing Neri exactly how humans tackle problems. If the Federation wanted to see human adaptability, he would give them a demonstration they wouldn't forget. Park woke to the sound of alarms blaring throughout his habitat. The harsh, pulsing noise cut through his sleep, jolting him upright in bed. Red emergency lights flashed, turning his bedroom into a scene from his military days. He jumped out of bed and rushed to the main room, where Neri was already hovering near his communication console. All 6 of her eyes were focused on the screen, her limbs moving rapidly across the controls. What's happening? Park demanded, still disoriented from the sudden awakening. Federation emergency broadcast. Neri replied, her voice higher-pitched than normal. Unidentified vessels have entered the solar system. They'd bypassed the outer detection grid. The main screen showed a Federation official making an announcement. Park couldn't understand the alien language, but translation text scrolled across the bottom. Vessels of unknown origin have entered Sol system space. All Federation citizens should remain calm and follow safety protocols. Defense forces have been deployed. Who are they? Park asked, moving beside Neri to see the tactical display that had appeared on a secondary screen. It showed multiple red dots approaching from beyond Neptune's orbit. Neri's exoskeleton made a series of rapid clicking sounds that Park had never heard before. Her normally smooth movements became jerky, almost agitated. This is why we were sent, Neri admitted, her exoskeleton continuing to click nervously. The Moros destroyed 3 Kelthuri worlds before the Federation could respond. Their technology adapts to standard Federation defenses. Park turned to stare at the alien beside him. You knew this was coming. That's why you're here. Not exactly when. Neri's antennae drooped slightly. But the Federation Council predicted their eventual arrival in this sector. The Moros have been moving through the outer systems for several cycles, destroying everything in their path. And you didn't think to warn us. Park felt anger rising in his chest. The Council feared causing panic among new Federation members, Neri replied. The observation program was implemented to gather information discreetly. Park paced across the room, military training kicking in as he processed this new threat. So you've been studying us to prepare for these Moros? Yes, Neri admitted. The Federation's standard defensive technologies and tactics have proven ineffective. The Moros adapt quickly, developing countermeasures to any approach used against them more than once. And you think humans might have solutions your people don't, Park realized, the pieces falling into place. Your species excels at unconventional problem-solving. Neri said. The Federation hoped to learn enough to develop new defenses, but they've arrived sooner than expected. She turned all 6 eyes toward Park. Your methods of improvisation and thinking outside the box, as you call it, are qualities the Moros have not encountered before. Park moved to his own communication console and activated it. I need to contact Earth Defense Command. Federation protocols suggest civilians should remain in secure locations during. I'm not a civilian, Park cut her off. I was a tactical response commander before I retired. And if these Moros are as dangerous as you say, Earth needs every experienced officer it can get. While attempting to establish connection with Earth Command, Park accessed Galactic Credit, finding it buzzing with activity as humans across the system shared observations and ideas. The emergency had triggered a massive information exchange. Look at this, Park said, pointing to the screen. Humans are already organizing, sharing information, developing response strategies, without any official direction. Nari moved closer, her eyes scanning the rapidly updating feeds. This is unexpected. The Federation response protocol involves official channels only. That's not how humans work, Park explained. We crowdsource problems, especially in a crisis. He pointed to various discussion threads forming on Galactic Credit, orbital defense modifications for Jupiter stations, repurposing mining lasers as defensive weapons, emergency evacuation coordination for outer colonies. Your species is discussing military strategy on public channels. Nari asked, confusion evident in her voice. We're sharing ideas, adapting existing technology, coordinating resources, Park replied. Look here, someone's already figured out the Moro ship's approach pattern based on fragmentary data from the detection grid. Park opened a particularly active discussion thread where users were analyzing the limited sensor data available about the Moros vessels. User_Seoul Ranger wrote, their ships change energy signatures after each engagement. They're using adaptive shielding. Standard targeting won't work twice. Another user responded, what if we continuously modify our weapons frequencies? Random pattern shifts every 3 to 5 seconds. A third added, old Earth submarine warfare tactics might apply here. Passive detection instead of active scanning. Nari made a sound Park hadn't heard before, something between a click and a hum. Your people are suggesting viable counter-strategies with minimal information. How? Pattern recognition, historical parallels, intuitive leaps, Park said, already typing his own contribution to the discussion. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten good at it. Park's communication console finally connected to Earth Defense Command. A harried-looking officer appeared on screen. Commander Park, your name just came up on our reserve roster activation. Reporting as ordered, Park replied automatically. What's the situation? The Federation fleet is moving to intercept, but their tactics seem predictable. The Moros are adapting quickly. The officer looked exhausted. We're deploying Earth ships as secondary response, but we need coordination with Federation forces. I may be able to help with that, Park said, glancing at Nari. I have a Federation contact with direct knowledge of the Moros. After the call ended, Park turned to Nari. I have been reactivated for emergency service. I need everything you know about the Moros, their technology, tactics, weaknesses. Nari seemed to hesitate, her limbs moving uncertainly. Sharing classified Federation defense information with individual member species is against protocol. Park stepped closer to her. Nari, this isn't the time for protocols. If the Moros are as dangerous as you say, we need to try something different, something they haven't seen before, something human. The Federation Council would need to approve. The Federation Council sent you here to learn how humans solve problems, Park interrupted. Well, this is it. We ignore stupid rules when lives are at stake. Nari's eyes seemed to dim, then brighten again. You are correct. The observation directive takes precedence over information restriction protocols in this situation. She moved to the console and extended one limb, connecting directly to the system. Data began flowing across the screen, detailed information about Mora's ships, weapons, and previous encounters. "I will share everything the Kelthari know about the Moros," she said. "Perhaps together we can develop a solution that neither of our species could create alone." Park nodded, already scanning the tactical data and formulating ideas. The Galactic Credit feed continued updating with new observations and suggestions from humans throughout the solar system. "The Moros have no idea what they're about to face," Park said grimly. "They may have fought the Federation before, but they've never fought humans." 2 weeks had passed since the Moros entered the solar system. 2 weeks of desperate planning, improvising, and fighting. Park had barely slept, coordinating between Earth forces and Federation ships using Nari as a direct liaison. Now Park stood beside Nari on the observation deck of the Federation flagship, a massive vessel that gleamed like polished metal in the light of Jupiter's distant sun. Through the viewing portal, they watched as the combined human Federation forces drove back the Moros' fleet. "They're retreating," Park said, hardly believing his eyes as the enemy ships changed course, moving away from Earth's orbital defenses. The Federation admiral approached them. The being stood nearly 3 meters tall, with a body that resembled living crystal. Light seemed to move through the admiral's form, creating patterns that shifted with each movement. The admiral nodded respectfully to Park. "Your species' adaptation of our shield technology to create reflective countermeasures was unexpected. The Moros had no defense against their own weapons. Humans excel at turning an enemy's strength against them," Park explained. "It's basic judo principle, thousands of years old on Earth." The strategy had been surprisingly simple, born from a Galactic Credit discussion thread. Federation shields normally absorbed energy attacks, but humans had suggested modifying them to reflect energy back at the source instead. The Kelthari engineers had initially declared it impossible, until a team of human technicians demonstrated a working prototype using modified mining equipment. "The concept of using an opponent's force against them is not present in Federation tactical doctrine," the admiral said, crystal body glinting. "Most fascinating." "That wasn't even our most creative solution," Park said with a tired smile. He pointed to a group of smaller ships harassing the retreating Moros vessels. "Those converted cargo haulers are running old entertainment broadcasting equipment. They're jamming the Moros communication systems with thousands of human music tracks and old TV shows." The admiral's crystalline form flickered with what Park had learned was amusement. Yes, the concept of spamming their systems was particularly effective. The Moros' battle coordination collapsed within hours. Park watched as the last of the enemy ships jumped away into whatever method of faster-than-light travel they used. The immediate threat was over, though he suspected the Moros would return eventually, better prepared next time. "We should celebrate this victory," the admiral said. "The first significant defeat the Moros have suffered in 7 standard cycles." "I'd like to get home first," Park replied. "I haven't seen my apartment in 2 weeks." The admiral's form pulsed with light. "Of course, a Federation shuttle is prepared to return you to your habitat. The Council wishes to express its gratitude for your service." As they walked toward the shuttle bay, Park noticed how crew members from various species stopped to watch him pass. Some made gestures he didn't recognize, though Nari explained they were signs of respect in their cultures. "Your tactical adaptations have saved millions of lives," Nari said as they boarded the small shuttle. "The Federation has never seen such rapid development of counter-strategies." "It wasn't just me," Park insisted. "Thousands of humans contributed ideas through Galactic Credit and other channels. The key was sharing information openly, letting everyone contribute. This collaborative approach is unique." Nari's antennae twitched with interest. Federation species typically rely on designated experts working through official channels. The shuttle journey back to Park's orbital habitat was quick. After 2 weeks on various ships and in emergency command centers, his small apartment felt unusually quiet and peaceful. "I need a shower and about 12 hours of sleep," Park said, dropping his temporary Federation uniform jacket on a chair. Nari moved to her usual cleaning routine, but her movements seemed different, less focused on the apartment and more on organizing the tactical data they'd accumulated. The Federation will want a full report on the human contributions to the defense effort, she said, her limbs working rapidly across her datapad. Park headed toward the bathroom but paused. You know, I never did get a straight answer. Did you volunteer for this assignment, or were you ordered to come live with a human? Nari's eyes shifted, some focusing on him while others continued monitoring her work. I requested the assignment. The Keltheri lost 3 colony worlds to the Moros. My clutch sister was on one of them. Park felt a pang of sympathy. I'm sorry. I didn't know. It is why I was particularly interested in your military manuals, Nari admitted. I hoped to find solutions my people had missed. As Park emerged from his shower, Nari's communication pad chimed with an incoming message. She read it, her posture straightening noticeably. My assignment has been modified, she announced. I am now designated as the official Keltheri envoy to human space forces. The Federation Council requests your expertise for a new joint defense initiative. Park raised his eyebrows. They want me to continue working with Federation defense. The Council believes human tactical thinking will be essential in developing long-term strategies against the Moros, Nari explained. You are being offered a formal position as liaison between Earth forces and Federation command. Park considered this. He'd retired from military service hoping for a quiet life, but the past 2 weeks had awakened something in him, a sense of purpose he'd been missing. Would we continue working together? He asked. Yes. The Keltheri-human collaboration produced the most effective countermeasures. Nari's antennae twitched. I have been instructed to remain as your partner, though the domestic maintenance aspect of my assignment will be optional going forward. Park smiled. And to think, this all started because I found you hovering over me in bed. An efficient observation position, Nari replied, the edges of her mandibles clicking in what Park now recognized as her species version of a smile. Park laughed, feeling the tension of the past 2 weeks finally release. We make a good team, don't we? Indeed. The Keltheri provide technical precision, while humans contribute unexpected approaches. Nari moved closer to him. The Federation had not anticipated such effective collaboration between our species. Well, they're getting a crash course in how humans operate, Park said. We're messy, we break rules, we try crazy ideas, but we get results. Nari's eyes brightened. The Federation needs this approach. The Moros will return, likely with adaptations to our current strategies. Then we'll come up with new ones, Park said confidently. That's what humans do best, adapt and overcome. As Park looked out his viewport at the Earth hanging like a blue jewel against the blackness of space, he realized humanity had just announced its presence to the galactic community in the most meaningful way possible, not through politics or trade, but by doing what humans had always done best, finding creative solutions to seemingly impossible problems. I believe, Nari said, following his gaze toward Earth, that the Federation underestimated your species' potential contribution to galactic society. That seems to be a common mistake, Park replied with a smile. But I think they're learning. Nari's antennae twitched in agreement. Most efficiently. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.